For years, Ellen DeGeneres built one of the safest images in television. She was funny, approachable, positive, and above all, publicly associated with one simple message: be kind. That image became so strong that many people stopped questioning it entirely. But behind the scenes, quiet stories had already been circulating for years. Small comments, private warnings, people saying that working near Ellen felt very different from watching her on television. One former staff member later described the atmosphere in simple terms. Everyone walked on eggshells. Employees were allegedly warned not to enter her office casually, not to speak at the wrong time, and not to create unnecessary friction around her. At first, those stories stayed in the background like internet whispers that never fully break into mainstream attention. But in 2020, that changed. And once it changed, it moved very fast. The moment that triggered everything came from comedy writer Kevin T. Porter. He posted a tweet saying he would donate $2 to a Los Angeles food bank for every story people shared about bad experiences involving Ellen DeGeneres. That single post exploded. Thousands of replies appeared almost immediately. Within hours, social media turned into a flood of screenshots, personal stories, reactions, and debates. What looked like one joke suddenly became one of the most talked about threads online. And what made it powerful was not one giant accusation. It was volume, story after story, different people, different years, different situations, but all pointing in the same direction. One of the most repeated stories involved a claim that new staff members were warned about an unusual pattern inside the workplace. According to that account, each day someone inside the office would allegedly become the target of tension, criticism, or frustration. The advice given to one new employee was described like this: "It's not personal. Just survive today. Tomorrow it will be someone else." That line spread quickly because it suggested something larger than isolated bad moments. It suggested culture. And once that idea entered public conversation, people started paying attention differently. More stories followed. Some sounded minor, some sounded bizarre. One rumor claimed employees were expected to chew gum because of sensitivity to smells. Another came from someone who said they worked as a server at a Los Angeles restaurant and alleged that a complaint about nail polish nearly caused workplace trouble. On their own, stories like that might have faded. But by then, the internet was already looking for patterns, and patterns were exactly what people believed they were seeing. What made the situation more serious was that it stopped being only internet gossip. Soon, people connected directly to the show itself began speaking publicly. Former producers, former employees, people who had worked inside the machine. That shifted everything, because once workplace complaints began appearing in mainstream reporting, the conversation moved from online rumor into real industry scrutiny. Then came the early pandemic period, and the pressure intensified. According to reporting, several staff members connected to the Ellen DeGeneres show said they were left with little clear communication during the first lockdown period. Some employees reportedly struggled to get answers about pay, schedules, and job security, while production suddenly changed. At the same time, reports claimed an outside production company had been brought in while episodes continued filming remotely from Ellen's home. That detail created immediate backlash because only days earlier, Ellen had publicly emphasized how much she cared about her crew. Online, people began comparing those statements against what employees were now saying. And once that contradiction appeared, public trust weakened fast. By mid-2020, the situation became much harder to dismiss. Several current and former employees came forward anonymously with more serious allegations. One person described experiences involving racism inside the workplace. Another said they felt pushed out after taking leave connected to a family loss. Others described intimidation, fear, and emotional pressure behind the scenes. At that point, the story stopped looking like celebrity gossip. It became a workplace scandal. And even though Ellen herself was not accused of personally carrying out every allegation, one criticism appeared again and again. "If your name is on the show, responsibility reaches you." One former employee said it directly. "If she wants her name on the title, she needs to know what is happening." That quote spread everywhere, and pressure kept building. Soon, producers connected to the show released a public statement saying they took the allegations seriously and were committed to improving workplace conditions. But by then, statements alone were not enough. An internal investigation was launched, and once investigators entered the picture, the fallout became real. Reports later showed that 3 senior producers exited the show after allegations involving sexual harassment and misconduct. That changed how the entire industry viewed the story, because now consequences were visible. This was no longer just online outrage. It had entered executive decision-making. Eventually, Warner leadership sent internal messages to staff acknowledging employee cooperation during the investigation and promising change. But by then, public perception had already shifted, and Ellen herself had to respond. When she finally addressed the controversy publicly, the moment drew enormous attention. Viewers expected a serious tone. Instead, she opened with humor. During a September 2020 monologue, she joked that if anyone was thinking of giving themselves a nickname, they should not choose the Be Kind Lady. That line immediately exploded online. Some people thought humor helped ease tension, and others thought it minimized the seriousness of everything being discussed. For critics, the joke landed badly, because many former employees were describing pain while the public face of the brand appeared to soften the moment with comedy. Instead of calming the situation, the backlash continued. And then, television numbers started reflecting the damage. Ratings dropped. Reports suggested the show lost more than 1 million viewers over the following months. For a program that had dominated daytime television for years, that mattered. Competition began overtaking it. Industry confidence weakened. Advertising revenue also reportedly dropped sharply, adding financial pressure to reputational pressure. Once sponsors begin watching carefully, every controversy becomes heavier. By 2021, the future of the show had become impossible to ignore. Ellen announced the daytime program would end. Publicly, she said the decision had long been under consideration. She explained that she originally planned to stop earlier, and that network discussions had extended the show longer than expected. But because of timing, many viewers questioned whether the scandal accelerated the ending. Officially, she denied that connection. Publicly, many remained unconvinced. And while the daytime show prepared to close, other projects connected to her name also began fading. Her NBC primetime game show, Ellen's Game of Games, quietly disappeared after ratings weakened. The format had once looked strong, fast energy, big audience reactions, primetime visibility, but momentum faded. Scheduling changes made viewership harder to sustain. Eventually, that project ended too. After years of constant television visibility, Ellen suddenly became far less visible. The shift felt abrupt because for so long she had seemed unavoidable in daytime entertainment. Then came attempted returns. A documentary focused on gorilla conservation showed a quieter side of her life. Later, she tried returning through stand-up comedy. But even that comeback struggled. In 2024, several scheduled tour dates were quietly canceled in major cities including Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, and San Diego. No full public explanation followed. That silence created new speculation. Later, another planned event series in the United Kingdom also disappeared before fully beginning. Again, no major explanation. Then came a Netflix comedy special. Some believed it might reset public opinion. Instead, critics reacted harshly. Variety described it as painfully self-focused. The Independent called it awkward, unfunny, and self-pitying. Much of the criticism focused on one familiar issue. Many viewers felt Ellen still framed herself as the person most damaged by the controversy, rather than fully confronting why the controversy happened. That reaction reopened debate again. And eventually, Ellen announced she was stepping away from stand-up entirely. Not a pause, not a break, a full stop. After years of controversy, cancellations, investigations, falling ratings, and difficult comeback attempts, the reaction was unusually quiet. No major outrage, no huge shock, just a kind of public acceptance. Because by then, the larger story had already settled into place. The question surrounding Ellen was no longer whether she had lost control of her public image. That part was already obvious. The real question became whether that image had ever been fully accurate in the first place.